Hey guys, what is up? So in this video, I'm going to be talking about WebStorm. And as you guys know, for the last year probably, I've been touting Visual Studio Code as like a great editor. Visual Studio Code I think is great because it's open source and it's free and everything. But when it comes to free versus paid, obviously you get what you pay for. There are some good open source projects out there that can rival paid products, but in the sense of the guys over at JetBrains who have created tools like ReSharper or PyCharm, or in this particular case, WebStorm, the tools that they provide, you truly understand why people buy certain tools, because having the right tool for the job is it's like half the battle for the most part. Like if you've ever worked on a car, one of the things that has always been the biggest pain in the ass for me when it comes to working on a vehicle is actually having the right tool, or typically leverage, because when you're working in tight quarters and things like that, you need to have really crafty tools for limited space and things like that. And really the same can be said for programming. So when you're trying, that's why people purchase things like .NET and SQL Server, because it has all these tools and customer support and everything that they need. So while it's impressive what the open source community can do, they typically don't provide the same level of support that like a paid product would provide. So that's just kind of my spiel on what WebStorm and why I have multiple opinions. And by the way, people can like multiple products. Like there's nothing wrong with that. So one of the the cool things here's like just a play React Redux project that I have going on. So it has like basic functionality where you can see the line numbers. It has different coloring. You can download different themes just like you can with Visual Studio. So the open source community has created additional plugins for this project. But if you wanted to just use different settings out of the box, you just go to the settings and appearance and behavior. Go to appearance and you just click on one of these. So a lot of people use the dark theme. I'm not sure what you prefer. Some people really like that, but for whatever reason, I kind of go back and forth with the dark theme. Some people say dark theme lets you is easier on your eyes, and sometimes people say that the bright colors of light colors actually gives them headaches. I haven't really found any sort of correlation between that, but I can tell you that when it comes to reading really complex code, I typically like the lighter theme. I don't know why that is. And I'm mostly a dark theme guy. There are guys that you could talk to from my old job that, would always comment on the fact that I always had some sort of dark theme going on. I was a big fan of Sublime Text and things like that. But the dark theme, for whatever reason, I find it to be harder to deal with when it comes to really, really complex code bases, or at least ones that I'm unfamiliar with. So that said, now another cool thing about this project that I like is that you can see that on my ESLint that I'm setting up for the project here, it's got the little ES6 icon and the JSON icons and the JS files and everything. So typical to other editors and things like that, when you create new for different projects, you can see it's even got up-to-date icons for Pug and Jade. So Jade just barely transferred over its name to Pug, I guess probably in the last couple of years, but you see that it even has icons for that. So the reason why I mention that is the JetBrains community is actually very, very good at keeping up to date with modern tools. One of the reasons why everybody flock to WebStorm over something like Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code, but Visual Studio, is because in 2015, one of the most, in fact, it was the most requested feature of Visual Studio 2015. So this would have been actually more like 2014 or so, going into 2015. The most requested feature from Visual Studio, one of Microsoft's most popular projects, was to add JSX support. So JSX is the HTML, XML kind of hybrid language using JavaScript that React uses. And everybody needed it for Visual Studio, but the problem was Visual Studio came out with 2015 and JSX wasn't included. But going back to that time, the only IDE at that time that had native support for it was WebStorm. So JetBrains knows I say JetBrains because that's the company that created WebStorm, but they know how to keep up to date with the latest features that the community is demanding. So, and if you guys have done Python as well, you know that PyCharm with JetBrains is one of the most popular. I think it's probably the most popular Python editor that exist out there for really large support, with multiple teams and things like that. So PyCharm is here. Now, once again, I was touting a lot, like in my beginning Python series, to use Visual Studio Code, because the downside of JetBrains is that you do get quality, but you do have to pay. Now, the thing is that the price isn't that bad. Now, I know it sucks for a lot of people, but if you look at the price for WebStorm, it's really not bad. It's like $59 a year, so that's not too bad. Now, if you're a company, you're going to pay a little bit more for licensing and things like that. But $59 a year for an editor that could be one of your most popular, or really the only tool that you need for major web development, then that's pretty cool. All right, so let me also show you real quick. So if I were to go to this Bayside.js here, and I'm going to go ahead and I just want to open a command prompt to this. God damn it. Sorry, I'm going to open a command prompt. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, sorry. So I'm going to go into the command prompt, and then I just want to git init a project here. And you can see I initialize an empty Git repository. So I'm going to say git add dot to git add all files that are in this project right now. I probably should have added a git ignore. In fact, if I can cancel out of that, I'm going to do that. So now we have this Git folder inside here. And if I go back to WebStorm, I'm going to... sorry, I needed to change my color theme back because that was annoying the hell out of me. All right, so... yeah, sure. All right, so if I go to my Bayside project now that I've added a Git, it knows about the Git project. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a new file real quick. And it's going to be a git ignore. And then by adding it, you can see that there's now, it even recognizes, oh, you're adding a git ignore file, that there's plugins here that you can add. So do you want to add the git ignore to the project? You can say no, it'll ask you. But you can even install the plugins if you want. So I'm actually going to ignore the plugins. I don't really want to add those, but I'm going to go ahead and exclude my node modules folder. All right, and that's all there is to that. So then I can go back to my git add and add all of them. You can see now it didn't have to add nearly as many. Okay, so now that I've done that, I can say git commit message first commit. Sorry, I had to put in double quotes here. It should be git commit -m. Either that or I spelled it wrong. No, double quotes, I guess. I don't know. It's fucking working now. So you can see that I added all the files now to the Git. That was my first Git push. And if I now right click on the project, you can go down to the Git folder and you can see show history. So I can go through and you can see just moments ago that I had this first check-in. So if I double click on it, you can get all the different files that have been checked in. If you wanted to just right click, you can say compare with local if you wanted to. So anyway, you can right click and then you can just say show all affected files, or really you can go through any one of these files. If it's green, you know that you added it, and you could say show diff, and you can see all the green is just new files altogether. But if there's changes, you can just review any one of them. But obviously all these are going to be brand new files that just got committed to the project. But as you make changes and you do commits and things like that, you can also do check-ins. And this is really one of the best ways to learn about complex coding. One of the things that I don't really stress enough, unfortunately, is that with newbie developers, it's really, really complicated breaking into this whole source control crap where you have to check things into Git, or you might be using Team Foundation Server. But these centralized code repositories that people are checking code into, there's all kinds of terminology that is confusing. Like if you're looking at the Git world, you're looking at Git commits and pushes. You're looking at branching and just branching, cloning, all these different terms and things that you just have to come to grips with, and it takes some time in order to be able to do that. So the best way is probably to make sure that you have some sort of, I would say, a GUI tool. And GUI is a graphical user interface, because some people prefer the command line tool for Git to do their pushes, and similar to what you saw me doing in the this here. But you could have also committed to your source control by using the tools available with something like WebStorm. So on my next check-in, I could make this this simple change here. In fact, we'll even, just to make it a little bit more significant, we'll say another change. All right, and I can just right-click up here on the tab, and I can go to the Git folder and say Add. Then I can go in here. I can say Commit File. Now this will bring up the GUI tool I was telling you about. So I could say I made a change. And you can see that it tells you the changes that are being made here. They're in green, what we just added. I can put my name as the author and everything, and I can just go ahead and commit it. All right, so now if I look at the right-click and I view the Git history of the project, I now have the second check-in, which is moments ago. Double-click on that. It shows you, oh, hey, this one file got changed, and it was changed by Chris Hawks. I can say Show Diff, and you can see that here's the differences. So if you've ever, like GitHub, you can look at open source projects and things like that and go through all the history there as well. But it's just a little bit easier to be able to do that, as you're writing and editing code and stuff like that. So that's one of the most helpful features of WebStorm. And really, that feature alone is one of the best reasons for purchasing a license for an entire year over another open source tool like even Visual Studio Code, just because the level of Git support is a bit better from these guys over at JetBrains. Another thing too is if you've ever done C# code, I've actually worked with quite a few people that literally can't live without ReSharper. Like ReSharper tells them how to do everything when it comes to writing C#. There's both positives and negatives to that. There's positives in the fact that it teaches you a lot of crafty ways to write stuff, but then another a negative could be that it writes code better than most programmers. So in some ways, when you just click and it just rechanges everything. Some programmers don't learn a lot from that. A lot of times you learn from the mistakes and the way that you're doing things incorrectly. You learn that through experience, and it can be really valuable feedback. But sometimes when things are doing so much for you, we become so reliant upon our tools to basically do everything, and that's kind of that. Goes into maybe an argument that one day like artificial intelligence is going to write code better than a human could, and it's only a matter of time. So hopefully it doesn't happen, because then we all be out of a job. But all right, guys, that's really it. That's just my review of the WebStorm product. This thing's phenomenal. It's definitely a 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. I'm not sure. I'm not even a critic or whatever. So my ratings don't really mean anything, but I can tell you that it's an awesome project, and the JetBrains guys are really good. All right, guys, take care. Have a good day. Bye. Hey, guys. So a lot of you ask me, how do I get my foot in the door to become a programmer? And I just want to take a moment to mention Dev Mountain Coding Bootcamp is a 12-week intensive course that focuses on the technologies of the here and now for web development. Some of the things that they're actually teaching in this 12-week course, it's geared to get you into the industry by focusing on things like jQuery, Node.js, React, Angular, how to use GitHub. So a lot of the things that you're going to need to do as a developer, as soon as you start, they're going to be teaching you in this coding bootcamp, and the entire goal is to be able to get you into the industry within 12 weeks. So if you guys are interested in learning more information about Dev Mountain Coding Bootcamp, just check out the link in the description tab of this video. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.